Morning. Well, it is for me. It's a Saturday morning still. I say still because I've just done a video on the Corona with its glorious new wing mirrors without all the oxidisation on the arms. Beautiful. Thanks, stupid. But I'm here to do the wheel bearings, front wheel bearings on the Hayabusa. And I got no history with this bike, so I'm not sure whether they've ever been done. Not sure what mileage it's done, to be honest. I think it's 25,000 or something. Check. Just select. Oh, I'm in gear. Right, there you go. Right, give me the mileage. Trip. Odo. That was it, wasn't it? 18,835 miles. Yeah, so as I say, I never got any history with the bike when I bought it, and I've checked all the basics and everything, and I don't think there's any movement in them. But I had a couple of they seem alright. I had a couple of don't know, vibrations that don't know, I've not had vibrations on the front end, and I've got some vibrations. The braking all seems to be alright, whether I slam it on or hold it loosely or whatever. There's no vibrations from that. There's no constant vibrations at all. There's just this, what's it happened? Twice, maybe 3 times. There's no wheel weights missing. I suppose that's one thing I could do, balance the wheel while it's off as well. And I've got the MOT coming up, so I just thought, for the price of it, I mean, they're 26 quid. Peace of mind. Is it worth 26 quid? I think so. I'll do the wheel bearings. So I'm going to do the wheel bearings. And I couldn't be bothered to get my ABBA Skylift out. So I put my frontal paddock stand up as much as I could with still being able to get it up into the, what's it called? Lower yoke. Shaft, central shaft, I don't know. Anyway, it fits up in there. And that's as high as it will go. I don't think it's high enough to get the wheel out. I think I'm going to have to take the mudguard off, or at least take the bolts out and lift the mudguard. But there's not much liftage to do. So I've just loosened these off in readiment for it all. So that's there was a bolt in there as well. I've taken that out, and it's brake line off of there. There's a clip, because this is the up and over, the old style, and it looks like this is an old rubber hose, whereas this is a hell line. Yeah, very strange. There's a clip up here that needs pulling out, he says. Access not brilliant. Right, so that's that all undone. I think you have to raise it now to get, you've got a cable clip here, hose clip here. You have to raise this up to be able to undo the bolt that bolts in from the other side to get this clip off. Then you can take the mudguard off out this way. That was the clip that was holding the up and over hose, and you have to sort of pinch it together and pull it out. It's a bit mullered, but yeah, that was hilarious fun. Well, it wasn't a nightmare, but could have been easier. I'm not sure I'm going to get the height on this. How much more does that give me? I think that might actually give me enough to get the wheel out. That's the bolt for this cable clip is a bit of a pig shit to get to. It actually feels like a nut on the back. That must be a self-locating bolt head and then a nut on the back by the feels of it. Anyway, I think with this pushed up, I'll possibly have enough to get the wheel out rather than fugging about with that. Can I get a spanner through there? I'll try wheel off first. It's the obvious way to go. Right, I've even got the book out for this. Alright, brake calipers first, which is a 12mm. Cut the 12mm bolts. Just get a couple of bungees to lift them up. Just take some of the pressure off. Right, I'll go around and do the other side. Right, that's both calipers out the way. As I say, I've got the Bible here today for me, Hayabusa. I've done this a few times, but there are bits that I leave out. So I thought I'd have a look at the Bible. Slacken the axle bolt, which is this one, which looks like about a, what do you reckon, 24? It's definitely not a 24. Is it that odd 21? Oh no, it's not. 22. Fucking hell. Bit like that. Won't be using a brake bar to put it back on. Right, slacken. Undo it. It went from slacken to undo. I'm going to put that all in one remarkable bit, but I think I'm going to leave that in a few threads. Good old thread, because it's going to get slapped, I think. Slacken the axle clamp bolts on the left hand fork. That's them slackened off. That's the two clamp bolts on the other side, on the left side. And then you want a 24mm adapter piece. Which doesn't want to go in. So it's 24mm. Let's knock that in a bit. Which leaves a 17mm there. Now we should be able to. No, we won't, because you haven't undone the right hand clamp bolts. Unscrew the axle bolt. Slacken the axle clamp bolts on the left hand fork, then the support with the wheel, and withdraw the axle from the left hand side. We ain't going to do that because the right hand, it doesn't say anything about undoing brake cable, take the calipers out of the way, with ABS undo the sensor. I haven't got ABS. Oh, it does there, look. Missed a step. Missed a step. Not crucial, but missed a step. Right, that's clamp bolts both sides undone. That's a bit freer, isn't it? That's pushing out quite nicely, that. There should be a spacer on the right hand side, which there is. No spacer this side. Right, now have we got the height? If we haven't got the height, at least with the wheel drop down, it'll make it easier to get. Oh no, I've got plenty of height. There you go. And my guard are falling out now. Well, there you go, there's the wheel out. Put that over there. Need to get some wooden blocks to put it on the floor. And then start smashing the shit out of it. Let's get the bearings out. Right, I think I'm set up. Right, manual says left hand side wants to face the floor. It also says about pulling these seals out, which I used to do with a screwdriver and jamming them out, but you risk damaging this outer edge here, so I'm going to whack them out without that. Now, I had a comment yesterday saying, it was commenting on a video I done years ago on my GSX 1000 doing a front wheel bearing, and I was hitting the bearing out, so I had the wheel similar setup as this. You move the inner spacer over so you can get purchase with your drift. Let's just get my drift out. So you can get purchase. So that's the bottom bearing. That's just hooking on the bottom bearing. As I say, you move your sleeve over, your inner sleeve, and you can only move it, what are we talking, 2 mil? So it doesn't give you much of a lip. I don't know whether that'll force over anymore. No, much of a lip to hit out your bottom bearing. The only part of the bottom bearing you can hit is the inner race, which obviously when you're installing a bearing you don't hit the inner race because you can really mess up your bearing, and you don't want to mess up your new ones. But the old ones coming out, it don't really matter where you hit them. It's the bearing seat that you don't want to mess up. So preferably you'd like to hit the inner ring so you're furthest away from this seating area, so you don't mar that up. But as I say, pushing the sleeve over to one side gives you about 2 mil of access, if that, to get your drift on, to start hammering out that bottom bearing. What he's saying is, I'll read you his thing. It's Ole Hansen 6655, and it's on my Suzuki GS 1000 front wheel bearings video. He put, "Are you hitting the bearing on the inner circle? Can't be more wrong." Is there another way of hitting it? I mean, obviously, once you've hit the first bearing out and taken your spacer tube out, you can turn the wheel up and hit the other bearing. No, even that you can't, because it's seated. You can't get to the outer race. And then he's like sarcastically put, because I've commented, and he's sarcastically put, you will learn one day or something. You will learn someday. There you go. I put, you sir definitely seem like you lack the knowledge and the skills to actually question the method I and many others use. Because it did make me question it. And I went onto YouTube and looked at wheel bearing removal videos, and they all do it this way. There's no way of hitting anything other than the inner race when you're hitting out the first bearing. And I'm sure even with the second bearing, because it's on a seat, it sits on a seat, you can't hit the outer ring anyway. So and then obviously he's put, you will learn someday, and eventually I just put, so point me in the direction of a video that clearly explains, in your opinion, the correct way to knock out a motorcycle's front wheel bearings using a punch / drift and hammer, please. So he's not replied to that. But with a hammer and drift, is there another way? I've done a lot of wheel bearings, and I don't know of another way. I don't think that's got some purchase. Is that it out? That's not out, is it? No. Yeah, so obviously as you push it down, so the sleeve can angle a bit more, because it can diagonally angle, which gives you a little bit more purchase. But you can still only get that in a ring to hit your punch onto. I mean, if I'm doing it wrong, let us know. I mean, this isn't a tutorial. No matter what Black Dot Killer says, it's fat bloke in the shed, and this is how I've done it. This is how I do it. Bit of a burnt smell. No discernible movement. No discernible movement on that. Let me just get a cloth. So yeah, there's no difference end on end to the spacer. It's just the book says knock out the left hand end first. I don't know why. Well, I'll stick that over there in the manner it came out. Yeah, as I say, you got the, zoom you in, zoom. You've got the lip. You got enough lip where the bearing sits onto. So from the other end, you wouldn't be able to hit that with a drift, with the spacer in the way. Obviously that's like that. So you've got to come through here. You move that over ever so slightly so you can get to hit the inner edge of the bearing. But there's no way to get to the outer edge because the sleeve's in the way. And even with taking the sleeve out the way, will you be able to see that? All you can see of the bottom bearing, or the remaining bearing, the right hand bearing, is the inner race. So I know Comprendi his comment, and he hasn't backed it up with any evidence of other videos or even given explanation of his own of how he does it and why my method is that wrong. But yeah, if anyone knows a different method, and as I say, all I can see on that other bearing now is the inner race. Yeah, this could be a waste of a Saturday morning. Waste of a Saturday morning and 26 quid. But what an entertaining video. Yeah, don't even smell that burnt. Stop swearing. They're probably original as well. Yeah, but as I say, peace of mind and all that. So what do I want now? I'll figure it out and I'll come back to you. Okay, book says left hand side bearing first, and they're both the same bearings. Koyo bearings 62052RS 02208. If you wanted the code, and if you didn't want the code, don't listen to that bit, just ignore it. And these are sealed both sides, whereas the older ones are sealed one side. And if you've got the sealed, if your bearings that you're putting in are only sealed one side, the seal faces out. Fairly obvious, because if the bearings faced out, you get all the shit in there. You don't want all the shit in there. As these are sealed both sides, it recommends putting the numbered side outwards. So that'll allow future owners what will it allow them? It'll allow them to read the bearing number without actually having to take it out to buy replacements before you strip it. Something like that. Now I want to hit that in there. So I'm going to use an old bearing to get it started. And I want to use old bearing. Let's go straight in with the socket, I think. This is a 36mm socket, which sits very lovely on the outer edge of the bearing, because as I say, you don't want to be pushing on that inner edge. And its diameter is small enough that it fits nicely in the hole, so it's not going to get jammed in there. If you're hitting it in with your old bearing, you can hit it that far that the old bearing gets jammed. Now there's nothing in the book using the old bearing, a bearing driver or a socket large enough to contact the outer race of the bearing only. Drive it in until it's completely seated. There's no mention of putting any grease or anything, so I ain't going to. Previously I have, with that thought that a little bit of grease will make it go in there easier. Thinking about it, it might lubricate the area, but it's such a tight fit, the grease could get in the way of movement. And then you get that change of tone where it's gone solid. Turn the wheel over and install the bearing spacer. Spacer in. Now what used to fool me here is, I don't know whether you're going to see that. Oh, that's the wrong way. Oh, it's all gone mad. But the spacer actually sits proud of the inner seat, which to me means that this spacer is going to in some way lift your inner race. As you push down on the bearing to seat it, it's going to push your inner race up That's not good for the bearing, is it? But that's all it says in the book. Getting grease on my tyre. Got to remember to clean that off. That'd be nuts on the road, that will. Bit of grease on your front tyre. It is... You've got like the top edge of the spacer, and then there is like a recess, and then it comes back up again for where the bearing seats. But even that feels as though the spacer is taller. And there's no discernible difference between which way up the spacer goes. It's exactly the same. It's hard to gauge with just sticking my fat finger in there. But it does feel as though there's a, I don't know, 0.5 mil in it, maybe 1 millimetre in it, which would pull that race up, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? I know, comprendi. But then I suppose it's taken up some of the play. It would hit against this inner race and the bottom inner race, so each one would take up a little bit of that. So you're talking probably thousandths of a millimetre rather than inches. It's all self-explanatory in my head. The trouble is my head don't speak in earthly tones. Right, yes. So again, number out, Japan, Koyo. There we go, like that. Trusty 36mm socket. It's a bit on the piss. Feels like it's on the piss. Is that zoomed in a bit too much? Let's take you out a bit. There you go. And then slap. Still move the spacer. It's tighter than it was. Right, that's in up against. What are we saying now? Apply a smear of lithium based grease to the lips of the new seals, then press them into the wheel using a seal or bearing driver or a suitable socket to drive it into place if necessary. Okay, so I want some lithium based grease. So what we're doing, just the inner lips, just that inner doobry. Lithium based grease to the lips of the new seals, then press them into the wheel using a seal. So you can do that afterwards, couldn't you, rather than getting grease all over you to start with. And that sits flush beautifully. Up and over, round and down. The same with this one. Like that. Need to line up that spacer a bit better. Houston, we may have a problem. If anything, I'd say that's a bit loose now. That's definitely in there. Oh, sorry mate. Can we prise this out without ruining it? Houston, we got it fucking wrong again. Let's just give that another tap. It's solid. Well, I've moved it a bit because it's gone solido again. Right. There you go. Yeah. Beautiful. That's too far. Bloke's an idiot. Right, that's it. I think apart from a smear of grease on the axle, that's all the grease required to assemble your bearings. Obviously they're sealed bearings, so they contain the required amount of grease from the manufacturer, and I would recommend Koyo bearings. And that's because other people have recommended Koyo bearings and I've never had any problem with them, and generally speaking you don't get a lot of recommendations for something that's a piece of crap. So that's good enough for me. Let's get a clean rag, clean that grease off that tyre, and right, yeah, clean up any of this greasy deposits from the greasy mitts. Gorgeous. Right, that's all cleaned up, ready to go back on. So I'll put some of this shit away, get it out of my way, bring you back when I'm throwing the wheel back in. Okay, refit, wheel in. Axle goes in from the left hand side. Where's my spacer gone? There's my spacer. We've got spacer on the right hand side. Goes in there. And I think now the wheel's back in, I'm going to actually do the mudguard first, and that'll hold that secure while I fart about with the rest of the stuff. Smear of grease to the axle and bearing seals. We've done the bearing seals, or I've done the bearing seals. Fit the axle spacer into the right hand bearing seal, done that. Into position, directional arrows, it's all going the right way. Just the wheel into place. Slide the axle in from the left hand side and tighten the axle bolt slightly. Right, so on a bit of grease. Axle bolt on lightly. Wheel spins freely. Install the brake calipers. Operate the brake lever to bring the pads into contact. Right, grease can go out of the way. Like that. Right, let's just get the torque wrench set up and some numbers and do that on there a bit more proper like. Okay, 12mm, 39 newton meters. And the you're kidding me. Halfords, you're kidding me. What the hell? What the hell, Halfords? That's well, now I'm wondering whether it was a Halfords one. Perhaps it was a dodgy one I just stuck in there. This is feeling very wrong. 39 Newton meters. On my head. Front brake caliper mounting bolts, 39 Newton meters. I'm going to undo that top one. Oh yeah, I suppose so. It's not a great deal of force to undo it. Just, I don't know whether it's because the leverage I've got here, it just feels, you know what I mean? It's just, yeah, there we go. Right, 39 it is. To the side. Just, you know what I mean? It just feels like it's too much. Right, same again. $39 it is. Right, activate the front brake. Activated. Then what? Then what? Consult the Bible. Install the brake hose or brake lever to bring the pads into contact with the disc. Now tighten the axle bolt to the torque setting specified at the beginning of the chapter. Torque setting for front axle. Front axle nut, 100 Newton meters. Newton meters. So that's that done. Now tighten the axle bolt, blah blah blah, on K8 models onwards. Voila. Tighten the right hand axle clamp bolts to specific torque. Front wheel axle clamp bolts, 23 Newton meters. $23. Sorted. Move the motorcycle off its stand, apply the front brake and pump the front forks a few times to settle all components. Right. Get all the shite out of the way. Right, that's that out of the way. Bounce the front end. Careful of the paddock stand on the rear. Components settled. Move the motorcycle off its stand, apply the front brake and pump the front forks a few times to settle all components. On X to K6 models, tighten the left hand axle clamp bolts to the specific torque. It doesn't tell me to tighten up the clamp bolts. I'll just leave them then. Manual. You've told me what to do with the X to K6 models. Tighten the left hand axle bolts to the specific torque. Now tighten the axle clamp bolts on the bottom of the right hand fork to the specified torque settings. Right, that's what to do with the K6's, well, X to K6. and then it says install the remaining components in the reverse order of removal. It is just the clamp bolts, isn't it? Yeah, they're on. Brakes are on, torqued up. I've got the thingies, the whatchamacallits to do, but that's it. The brake pipes, brake lines. So all I've got this side is the clamp bolts. And to try and get my tool back out. $23. Right, that is it done. As I say, I've got the brake hoses to just hook into their clamps and try and get my tool out. That might be fun. But that, essentially, yeah, as I say, get my tool out. It's a bit wedged. Might have to undo the clamp bolts to give it a little bit more play. I don't know how much that crushes the axle in. It definitely pinches it. Anyway, that's it done. Front wheel bearings on my K8 non-ABS Hayabusa GSX 1300r. Child noises. Anyway, I hope someone enjoyed that. As I say, it's not a tutorial, it's just how I've done it. And as I say, with them bearings, punching out them bearings, Ole Hansen, who said I was doing it wrong, am I doing it wrong? Let me know. Point me to a video that says don't do it that way, do it this way. I'm not buying a blind bearing puller, blind hole bearing puller, or a knife edge puller or anything like that. I've done it this way for years. I am intrigued if I'm doing it wrong. As I say, please let us know. And anything else, just stick it in the comments. I'll almost definitely get round to answering you. The filters are off. Say what you want. Swear as much as you want. Good, bad, ugly, throw it in the comments. Anyway, that's gone on long enough. Thanks for being there, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again. Ta-ra.